what do you do as a portfolio manager when you have to have a structure for investments, right? Because if you were counting on tax reform, is this bad for small caps? Is this really bad for high tax corporations that were already betting stuff in? I mean, how do you deal with the big shift?
Well, first on the market cap issue, let me make the point, and we've been talking about this a lot over the last 5 or 6 months, is that small and mid caps were not perfectly insulated, in the case of a meaningfully stronger dollar. In fact, so many of these companies were part of the supply chain and would really stand to, be hurt in a situation where the dollar appreciated 15 or 20%. I think what we're getting from a lot of portfolio managers is a reluctance to take a huge amount of active risk until they have more clarity on policy. And so I was thinking about this in terms of the dollar. Without question, the border adjustment, if that were to go through as part of the tax policy reform, would need to be potentially offset by a stronger dollar if it wasn't, if it was going to be kind of a more neutral position. And if we say we don't want a hugely stronger dollar, does that change the way we think about the border adjustment? And what does that mean for the White House's proposal or counter-proposal in terms of taxes? This is a big question mark, and I think companies are going to say, let me wait and see before I spend until we get better clarity.
You make a great point. It's not just the border adjustment tax. I mean, if he got his way on infrastructure spending, if he got his way on tax reform and things like that, what would it do to the dollar?
This is a great question, and I think what we're all trying to sort of puzzle through. If we get great spending, that should be great for growth, but does that actually translate into a meaningfully stronger dollar? I mean, one of the points that we've been making is that this reflationary trade in the U.S. is great, but it's not isolated. In fact, we're seeing a reflationary impulse around the world, and a lot of the positive signals we saw from sentiment and spending in the middle part of 2016 have expanded to Europe and to Asia. And we're actually seeing a better global growth picture. So even without policy adjustments, it's hard to make the case that the dollar should have rallied really meaningfully in the first part of this year.
It's interesting, we've been talking to a lot of Fed bank presidents recently, and they all say CEOs are telling us, great confidence out there. Things are going to get better. We like what the administration is talking about. And then I follow up by saying, and so are they spending? And they all say, no. We're waiting to see what happens because we don't know if any of this is actually going to come true.
Yeah, I think some of the spending that we've seen has been bringing forward projects that were already, kind of allocated for 2017. The real question is, do we get a new set of projects that are put out there as a result of greater confidence? And I think your point is right. It's just a disconnect here between sentiment and activity.
So, Kate Moore, to David's earlier point, do you pay more attention to the sentiment indicators or the loan growth at the banks?
I think you have to look at both of them. You've got to look at the hard data, the soft data, and the change in each of these indicators. We try and aggregate all of that together to come up with our view on growth. And we have to say most of it is pointing in a really positive direction. But the question is, can sentiment get much more buoyant from here? And if it doesn't translate, especially on the corporate side, to kind of more aggressive spending and hiring and activity, do we have to temper our enthusiasm?